Hello and welcome to the Extreme Sports Performance Podcast. My name is Ryan Blake. I'm the founder and director of Extreme Sports Performance as well as the host of this show. The mission of this is to empower high-performing action and endurance sports athletes to elevate their competitive edge through advanced performance, protection and opportunity-driven systems, while harnessing the expertise, insights and strategies of real-world professionals to help athletes release limits and unlock potential to achieve peak performance in their sport. The vision of this is to be the ultimate resource for adrenaline junkies and weekend warriors, providing practical applied sports science strategies to overcome challenges and solve problems without sacrificing personal well-being. We strive to build a thriving community of extreme sports enthusiasts who embrace the balance between pushing the boundaries and maximising enjoyment in what they love to do. In this episode, I'm speaking with Trav Beaton. Trav is a professional wakeboarder and coach. We discuss a brief introduction on who he is, his past, his present and his future, what initially drew him to wakeboarding, what have been his highs and lows, what does the education, support, coaching of wakeboarding look like, what things does he see done well in the sport, what things does he see not done well in the sport, what's the most valuable things he's learned from wakeboarding, what does it take someone to be world class at wakeboarding, where does he see the sport going in the next 5 to 10 years, and what's his top piece of advice to help make someone better at wakeboarding? Okay, here we go. Trav, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you on. Please, can you start by giving the listeners a brief introduction to who you are and what you do?
Thank you for having me for a start. And I'm a wakeboarder, so compete for Team GB, so I've done international competitions, and then I also now coach a lot of Team GB as well.
Amazing. So, what was it then, Trav, that initially drew you to the sport of wakeboarding, and how have you ended up where you are today?
So I'd say as a kid and still to this day, very much I'll see someone do something, I'm like, I can do that. So I was on holiday and in Italy, a place called Lake Garda.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, saw someone wakeboarding. I'm like, what's that? My dad knew what it was, and that was when I was 12. And yeah, when we came back home, parents found somewhere for me to try it, and then just fell in love with the endless things to learn.
Amazing. So, what have been your highs and your lows from all of the time that you've spent wakeboarding so far?
I'd say the biggest high was definitely recently, a couple of months, landing my first double flip, so landing double back row on the boat, and also being the first UK rider to do that trick. As
Amazing.
for lows, definitely the past couple of years getting injured middle of the season. So I've torn my bicep twice, and then just last week torn my ab slightly. So dealing with that happening in middle of season, right when I'm feeling the strongest of my riding, and then that just coming.
So, a lot of wakeboarders that I speak to and we both know and both work with, injury seems to be quite a frequent and common occurrence, particularly in this sport. Why do you think that is? And what do you think riders could do to potentially reduce that from happening?
Well, obviously we're doing extreme sports, so it's kind of expected. Injuries are going to come
Mm,
here and there. It's part and parcel of, I guess, pushing the limits of your body.
mm,
Um, but I think a lot of riders don't do a lot of the off-water stuff, so then that their body isn't conditioned
yeah,
to take the abuse that we want to put it through. So our mind is in one place, thinking we can do X, Y, Z, but our body can only take so much. And then also, I think balancing the rest as well. So I think it's quite easy to then go the other way, and it's then really hard to balance doing all the off water stuff, but then not doing too much on the water as well. And because it's a very intense sport, so
mm,
yeah, it's hard to find that fine line between both.
yeah, sure thing. So, I mean, with you personally, then, Trav, like, what would you say your ideal balance is of training in terms of like stuff you do off the water, stuff you do on the water, the amount of rest you have? What does that look like for you?
I think it depends on the time of year.
Okay.
So obviously, if we're in the middle of winter, that's off season. So I think then uh, the off water stuff should take more priority. So especially in the UK, is unless you can escape somewhere, it's pretty damn cold to ride. So
Mm,
you can focus that time on being in the gym. If you have access to one, getting on a trampoline and building that aerial awareness so that when you do come back to the water, you're stronger and just everything feels like second nature because you've just had so many reps in over the winter.
sure
But
thing.
then
Yeah.
as you then get into the main season, is just toning that down a bit because chances are you're going to be on the water more. So then that's going to have a big toll on your body. So
Mm.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So we'll probably come back to more kind of the specifics of training a bit later, because I just wanted to ask you a few more things about that. But just to kind of change the subject slightly, the three kind of main things that we do as a company, Extreme Sports Performance, so we offer education to people, we offer support, and we offer coaching in various formats and shapes and sizes. And some of it's generic, some of it's individualized. What do you think the education, the support, and the coaching of wakeboarding currently looks like? You know, is it good? Is it bad? Could it be better? And I'd be really interested to hear your thoughts on that.
So I think as a beginner, especially online, if you Google a few things, it's there's quite a lot of information out there to get you
Mm,
through them early
mm,
stages. I think the information does leave some blanks, as any content do. You're trying to give them as little as possible so they don't overload, but it's proof that they understand it.
yeah,
And as you probably know, everyone has such different experience when trying stuff. So one
yeah,
person will have one problem with a trick, another person. So when people are making these tutorials and stuff, it doesn't cover all these points. But generally, from like beginner to intermediate, there's a decent amount of resources out there. And then when you start wanting to get into that intermediate to advance, then it's when you kind of need more of a coach,
yeah.
especially to speed up the process. Uh, I mean, I'm very much self-taught, and the process takes a lot longer and is a lot more painful. So that's kind of the benefit to a coach is you get to learn all the shortcuts and yeah, and just be able to learn in a safe way because there's so many ways you can learn tricks to reduce risk, to reduce that chance of injury, like we were mentioning earlier,
Mm,
which a lot of people don't know about until they get guided down their routes.
yeah,
And
sure.
then I think the off-water stuff isn't really emphasized enough. I'd say especially the trampoline side of things. Like you look at any top-end wakeboarder, chances are if you saw them on a trampoline, your mind will be blown. So because they've just got such good repetitions of just throwing stuff around, they just have such a good understanding of where they are in the air. Then mimicking that on the water is just way easier.
Mm, yeah, sure thing. The transfer is direct, right? I can see that. I mean, I know that from my personal experience when I used to ride. It really does make a huge difference. I probably learned all of my verted tricks on the trampoline first before throwing them on the water. Um,
Yeah,
Obviously there are some slight differences.
yeah, there's slight
Mm,
differences, but if you can get a rough idea and like just
mm,
kind of, especially if you can have a handle set up so it really
mm,
mimics what you're doing with the handle, then yeah, then
mm,
all you're doing is adding in the understanding how to get the takeoff. So, but yeah, I think that's definitely one thing I didn't focus on enough. For talking from like experiences, I could have
mm.
spent way more time on the trampoline and probably would have learned tricks way quicker.
Yeah, sure. It's it is a really good training tool. It's just it's not always, obviously they're just not always available, right? When
Yeah,
where everywhere, which is the biggest risk, and it's very easy to hurt yourself. So
yeah,
it comes back to what you were saying about coaching. Like it's almost like you need someone who knows what they're talking about or who knows how to do it themselves to be able to give you that information on the trampoline, not just on the water,
yeah.
which could save you a lot of pain. If we look at then the riders who are top of their game, who are like really innovating the sport, landing new tricks, winning competitions, are on the covers of all the magazines. And then you look at the riders who are doing all the opposite of those things, or the riders who are constantly hurting themselves, aren't progressing, etc. What do you see those riders do well, and what do you see those riders do badly?
I think the riders at the top end, especially early on in their career,
Mm.
focus on the small things. So you can almost, for me personally, I like look at wakeboarding almost like a cross between like a pyramid and a game of Lego. So the stronger your foundations are, the wider that base, the higher the peak. So they've built up, they've just spent a lot of time on the basics and getting them so dialed in, and then learning new tricks is literally just a process of connecting one basic to another and just putting it together to create what you want to do. And I think the people who like don't progress so quick or maybe injure themselves more often tend to neglect certain parts of their riding, which then creates a weakness, which then makes it harder to learn a trick, or they just don't quite have the strength there, and then that causes them to get injured.
That makes a lot of sense, and that can be applied to so many things. It definitely in the world of extreme sports. So I really like that analogy, and you see so many people try and skip to the peak, right? And not build a foundation. And then it's only really a matter of time before it all comes crashing down. So it's a good way of putting it.
I know I've seen people like try so wait, like chromobes, for example. So people who don't know wakeboarding, that is a front flip with a 360, and generally we land that in the blind position, so the handle behind our back. It's quite a weird feeling if you've not trained it, and I see people try it, and they actually fundamentally the flip and everything is like so perfect, but because they haven't practiced landing in that blind position, it's impossible for them to land because they just freak out on the landing. No
Mm.
matter how perfect the everything in the air is, if that landing isn't there. Whereas, and I've actually had a couple riders I've gone through this process with when coaching, is just did 2 weeks focusing on that landing, and then they go away and they come back and yeah, then land it within a set of just after just focusing on that specific area. And I think again, like with weight, when you can really break things up into different pieces and see where the problem is. So
Yeah, that's a really interesting analogy. I like that, and it makes so much sense again. Like this can apply to everything. Like those simple things done well, done consistently, become easy, right?
yeah,
But as soon as they're not done consistently, then the quality will reduce. So when you need to connect dots, it just doesn't work. You just kind of put a thought into my mind, which I'd be interested to know your opinion on. Like what part does psychology play in wakeboarding? Like from a rider's point of view, but also from a coach's point of view. And are they different or are they same?
psychology plays such a heavy part into wakeboarding. So
Mm,
like if we go down the rider's point of view, first of all, it's a lot of it is trusting yourself, and it's you either have a upward spiral or a downward spiral.
mm.
So let's say you start having negative thoughts like, "Oh, if I crash, it's gonna hurt," or um, you kind of just start panicking on stuff. You actually end up manifesting your own problems.
Okay.
So let's say if we're um, doing a spin, for example, like you panic, you think, oh, I've got to spin so much quicker and whatever, and then you end up rushing, going early, so you don't get the height, and then the crash generally happens. Whereas if you can remain calm and just take your time with stuff, you actually give yourself more time in the air, and generally the tricks go better. But
Hmm.
it's really hard to get your head around that first,
Yeah.
especially if it's a new trick. It's a scary feeling, that whole feeling of the unknown no one likes. And
Mm.
yeah, whereas then if we look at the coach, there's a lot of psychology because as we talked about earlier, everyone has different problems, and you can't approach any rider the same when you're coaching. So you've got one person you teach one way, one person, and you've got to be able to switch how you approach different situations.
I completely understand that, and that's how we apply our training to different athletes we work with. Like, there's obviously like a generic base, with generic information or instruction that is pretty black and white, the same for everybody. But then, how do you then how do you then get maximum gains and improvement when you individualize it to the person? And
Yeah,
that's key for that um, strength and conditioning side of things, um, but also from, I suppose, the skill acquisition side of things on the actual water, which you've alluded to, because everybody's body and mind works differently. So
yeah.
what works for one person might not work for another. This question I'm really interested in the answer. I've asked a few guests this, and I didn't know what to expect them to say, but where do you see the sport of wakeboarding going in the next 5 to 10 years? Do you think it's going to stay the same? Do you think it's going to completely change? Like, do you think there's going to be different types of tricks that are happening? Like, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I feel like even over the past couple of years, the sport's evolved a lot.
Hmm.
It's kind of where the boats are improving, the wakes are getting so much bigger, which got so much more airtime. And it's now, I'd say the level of tricks is maybe stagnating a little bit. There's a few new never been done being landed over the last couple of years, which are insane. But generally, the main focus is just making it look good.
Yeah.
With that added airtime, people were able to do different grabs, hold the grabs for longer, trying to grab multiple times at different points in the trick, and just everyone's just getting to express their own flair on how they think wakeboarding should look.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
I think that's just going to just keep creeping into bigger and bigger tricks. So,
Yeah. Okay. That's really interesting. And it's not necessarily about making things more complex all the time. It's maybe making things look more intense, I guess.
in some way, you could say wakeboarding, in some ways, kind of maybe gone backwards a little bit because, like,
Mm.
back in the day, like you're seeing people wanting to put down tens and stuff like that, which people are
Mm.
still want to do is insane when people put down tens. You're seeing a lot of people spend more time on 720s for trying to make them look way better. Yeah, there's been a lot more focus, I think, especially the last like 4 or 5 years on
Mm.
how things look rather than pure brute and technicality.
So you mentioned like the wakes have got a lot bigger, but what are your thoughts on kind of like boards and bindings? Like, do you think they've changed much, and how much does that, I suppose, innovation and technology help you?
I mean, I think, I mean, bindings make more of a difference on the board.
Okay.
Uh, I've ridden multiple boards throughout the 12 years I've ridden, and
Mm.
yeah, you get on some boards and you're like, I like it, and other boards you're like, it's a bit weird, but
Mm.
you get used to what you ride, and once you're in the air, they're basically all the same. So the tricks don't change depending on the board. So I think it's more of a placebo at play rather than a major difference. So when people get a new board, it's like, oh, it's a new board. I feel like I'm going higher.
Mm.
Generally, they're probably not, but I feel like there's still benefits to it, because if you feel like you're going higher, you're going to be more confident, and then that shows in your riding. So I don't think there's direct benefits to the boards, but yeah, if that makes sense.
So what is it about the bindings then, Trav, which make you say that? Is it just the way that they've the confidence they give you, or is it like an actual physical thing that you prefer about them when like for support or cushioning, etc.?
Yeah, so the bindings, you've kind of got two different styles of bindings. You've got
Yeah,
really kind of like soft bindings, which then, if you're someone who likes to do grabs, it makes poking the board out way easier. So that's my sort of preference. I prefer the softer feeling bindings. Probably not as good for my ankles,
hmm
but that's then where the other bindings come in, where they tend to be a lot stiffer. So if you are someone who's had ankle injuries in the past, or you generally have weak ankles, you can have that more supportive binding, which then makes you feel stronger and lead to more confidence on the water.
well, really interesting. Like I mean, I see so from when I've used to ride myself, the equipment's changed so much, and the bindings look so different now. But I've always preferred that feel of equipment, like
Yeah,
almost it being connected as part of you, not on you.
yeah, yeah.
And it just makes it more comfortable and gives you more confidence. So, just some questions to finish. Like, what would you say your kind of top piece of advice is to someone who wants to improve their wakeboarding? Say that they've got to a point where they're stagnant and they just can't see any improvements happening. What would be your kind of main takeaway for them?
You're never too good for the basics. Generally, if you're feeling of plateau, you probably need to take a step back, assess your riding, and figure out where the weak spots are, because you're only as good as your weakest link. I'd say
Great
that.
advice. Great advice. World class basics can apply to every area of life as well as
Yep.
sport, can't it? Yeah, awesome. Again, I'm going to put you on the spot a bit here because I don't think you know this was coming, but I'm just going to ask some quick fire questions to finish, if that's all right.
Okay.
The first one is favorite place to ride in the world?
Oh, Vancouver Island, Brute Lake.
Hmm. Favorite trick to do?
Favorite trick to do, Pete Rose.
Favorite trick to watch?
Rewinds, any sort of rewind.
Nice. And then finally, favorite rider of all time?
All time, Raf Jerome. He was just insane on all areas of wakeboard, whether it be cable, winch, and boat, and not many riders can do that.
Awesome. Well, Trav, look, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a pleasure to chat to you. If people listening to this want to get in touch with you, maybe with some follow-up questions, or you can get some coaching advice from you, what's the best way they can do that?
Best is to reach out on my Instagram. So trav.beaton,
Hmm,
Beaton. Yeah, any question about wakeboarding, just pop me a message and I'll see if I can help.
sweet. Well, look, best of luck for your riding and all the coaching you're doing for the rest of this year, and hope to catch up with you soon.
Sounds good. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to this episode. We hope you enjoyed the show. It would be really helpful if you could please leave a rating and or review on whatever platform you're listening on. Is there someone you know who would benefit from hearing what you've just heard? Then share the love by sending them a link. Be sure to check out our website www.extremesportsperformance.com that has details about the ESP blog, more information about this podcast, taking our performance overview online assessment, joining our online extreme sports community, our online training programs, our online nutrition plans, our flagship online athletic development coaching program, our in-person consultancy services, and how to get in touch if you have any questions. Follow us on social media at LinkedIn, Instagram, Threads, Facebook, and YouTube. Links to these can be found at the bottom of all of our web pages and via any search engine. Until next time, go well.